Distracting circumstances are a lack of funding, a nagging family or friends, or being too hesitant about showing your work as work in progress. You should not wait until you believe your text is 100% perfect. This will hinder you to be in conversations with others and will in the end lead to not being able to finish.
Funding is definitely quite important for doing your PhD because you have to find a means to support yourself. And if you don't have funding, then you'll probably spend quite some energy on trying to get funding. And that's time that you could use on your PhD. But the good thing is that there are different possibilities and different ways to get funding.
Well, the most important aspect of funding is the simple fact that most people cannot afford to do a PhD without funding. So that makes it absolutely necessary for the majority of PhD students, I would say. The extra aspect that is important about funding is that you're not only in a position to survive throughout the process of the PhD, but you also get the opportunity to travel to conferences. There's funding for extra stuff, extracurricular in a certain way, that gives you the ability to go around, network with people, and meet other academics and hear their research, which is a very essential part of doing a PhD.
Supervisor next door is your primary resource. Actually, you need to contact with supervisor quite early. Otherwise, maybe you need to change your whole structure or even your topic, your thesis topic. So these are quite time-consuming process. That's why you need to contact and keep contact with supervisor. It is very vital. Not only because you need something, structure your paper, etc., but also finding some literature, some readings, some important academic networks. And supervisor can provide a bridge between you and academia.
Well, I was very lucky to end up with an extremely good and competent supervisor that really fitted the way I like to work and do research. Because, and this really depends on each person, what they feel like, but for me it was important to have someone who is not breathing down my neck, while at the same time is always available when I have an issue or an obstacle or some kind of need for advice. So in that respect, my supervisor was absolutely, and still is, absolutely ideal in my situation, because he's always there when I need him, but at the same time, he gives me enough space to explore my research on my own terms.
Obviously, supervisors are very important in our process of doing PhD. And I think the very significant on this part is trying to be very open, very, if you can, like, make a friend with your supervisor. Apart from the professional, condition supporting, also in the personal level, making your supervisor as a friend, so you can be very open. You can telling your supervisor all the difficulties, and without being egoistic with both sides. This is because I had experience sometimes talking with your supervisor, you trying to show you are good at this part and you understand this part. But I think many times it was problems of my ego. I'm afraid the supervisor would, underestimate me. So I'm trying to show you something which is unnecessary in your PhD. You don't need to please your supervisor or showing you are competitive. So I think you can just show more of what you're really thinking, especially in some of the topics. Maybe the approach ideologically are very different, but if you can be very frank to expose, your shortcomings and your strugglings, taking your supervisor as a friend, as another people who really can help you. It can take both the ego from both sides, and this can get something really done in a very essential way. And many times you could have conflicts with your supervisors. In this case, if you are friends, and you can take it easily. Otherwise, this can, impact with one to another. In some cases, also, you might have two supervisors. And two supervisors can maybe have some ideological difference or preferences as well. In these cases, you have to be clear enough what you want. And I mean, sometimes as a friend, even though I don't agree with you, but I would respect what you're doing, especially between two supervisors who wanted to do very different way. So in this case, I think with the open communication in a very essential way, it's very important.
My experience is that the topic or a specific topic in the beginning isn't so important. It's rather about an area of interest in which you're really interested in, and then the exact topic can change a little during the course of the PhD.
Yes, a topic is necessary in the social sciences. You must be convinced of your own topic, because a PhD thesis in the social sciences is not a team product. You will be later identified with a topic. However, the concrete research question can come later. If you don't have a topic in mind, stay away from a PhD. In moving from topic to research question, you should consult the literature and talk with your supervisor and other academics. You need to identify a specific gap in the literature that you want to fill.
Well, one of the problems of PhDs is that the system is function in such a way that they expect you to find a very specialized, tiny little aspect of one specific subject and then focus on that for the next few years. And sometimes that could be a bit discouraging, because the more specialized it is, the more irrelevant it might seem to you after a while. So it would be important for people when choosing a topic to know that it's going to be specialized, it's going to be very narrow in a certain sense, but at the same time, it still has to be something that you can imagine yourself looking into quite thoroughly for the next few years. So it should be something that's interesting to you without that meaning that it's like a wide subject. Quite often when people think about PhDs, they have very grandiose plans about like very wide issues and subjects, but professors and supervisors in the whole system kind of always narrows it down more and more. So one should keep that in mind when thinking about the subject. It's going to be quite narrow, it's going to be quite specialized, but at the same time, it has to remain something that you're going to still be passionate about in the next few years.
There are so many resources in the universities, in your institute, which you can use, but I think, following with, the expertise in the area or what you are doing, it's very important, because they can somehow give you so many guidance and also reflecting what you are doing. And these professional conditions can really facilitate your process.
For me, the academic environment isn't too important, because I get most of my inspiration from the literature I read. But there are other people, other types of researchers for whom it's really important to get into contact and socialize with other researchers for their inspiration.
Well, the academic environment in which one is doing a PhD is absolutely crucial, because even though I said that the PhD is a very lonely process, at the same time, it's quite crucial to establish contacts and networks and meet with other academics during the PhD, even if the topics that they are doing are quite different from one's own. It's quite important to keep in touch with other academics' work, to even when the topics are different, you might have very similar methodological ways of approaching things. And it's always useful to have different opinions and to hear about the research of others, because even if it might seem that the topics are very different at first, you quite often find that there's a lot of similarities and a lot of exchange an interaction that helps in your own project, even when the other projects are of a different topic or subject. So keeping and maintaining a kind of like enriched kind of academic environment and contact with colleagues from one's own university, but even beyond that, in a more international way, I think is absolutely crucial. Well, the general social environment is also very important because precisely because the PhD is such a long process, and it's very rigorous, and it's very demanding, and you're going to spend a lot of time reading and writing and talking and thinking about your subject. It is absolutely crucial to maintain a kind of space outside of this framework in order to keep yourself sane. You need contacts and a wider circle of people who are not at all interested in what you're doing, so you have the chance to talk about different things and maintain a level of connection to reality, which the PhD sometimes drags you away from.
I would say it's like you need family, friends, peer support. This is also important. It's more like emotional conditions. And because doing a PhD involves with a lot of energies. A lot of energy sometimes we think it's nothing to do with emotion, but it is, because maybe in the first 2 years you'll be very happy, and then when you come into the process you have to write it down and have to produce something. It's really bring a lot of emotions, and at this point you really need some emotional support.